Good afternoon. This is Adrienne McBride. I'm the Executive Director of the FDMAS Alliance. And as you all know, the FDMAS Alliance is a community-driven, not-for-profit, and we're devoted to the development of evidence-based treatments for fibrous dysplasia, McCune-Albright syndrome, or FDMAS. We provide education, advanced research, and channel the voices of those affected by FDMAS. And our work is made possible by donations. So here's some housekeeping. We're recording today's session and we'll share the presentation and slides. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please write in the chat box if you have any questions, or it's informal today. So if you wanted to raise your hand, I think Dr. Dupecher would be willing to answer your question. And again, you're welcome to use the chat box throughout. So I am honored today to introduce Dr. Cecelia Dupecher. She's the program manager for the PRMRP under the CDMRP, and I will be serving as the tech today. So please be patient. And Cecelia?
All right. Okay, so hi everyone. As Adrienne said, I am Cecelia Dupecher. I'm the program manager for one of 35 programs in the organization called the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Programs. We have a cozy group here today. I think that these are the most effective. So if you have any questions, just please feel free to interrupt me. I think we can make this a much more informal conversation. Okay, next slide. So this is the outline of the presentation today. I'm going to start off with an overview of the organization. We're going to go through the program cycle and review process. We're going to talk about the peer-reviewed medical research programs. That's the program that we have topic areas, and that's where your topic area, FDMAS, is under. We're going to talk about our funding opportunities that are now available, the deadlines for them, the application process, and I'm going to close off with some resources and tips for a successful application. Next slide. So this is the vision and mission of the organization. We want to transform healthcare through innovative and impactful research. And I underscore those words, innovative and impactful, because you will hear this throughout the presentation today. This is how we differentiate ourselves from other funding organizations. We're really looking for that game-changing idea, that impactful research that's not just for the sake of research, but that has impact to the patients and those living with the disease and the condition. And we do this by responsibly managing collaborative research that discovers, develops, and delivers healthcare solutions for service members, their families, veterans, and the American public. And the last portion of that sentence is really important as well, because you will see that is the whole definition of military health. And you can see that it is a very broad statement. So it doesn't really need to be, not all our conditions that we manage are directly aligned or directly aligned to active duty service members. And you can see that this is a much more encompassing definition of what military health stands for. Next slide. Here are some hallmarks of the organization. I'm not going to go through all of them, just in broad strokes. We manage targeted research funds that are added by Congress to the DoD budget. This really means that we do not request these funds. These funds are added as targeted research funds. So we're an execution management agency for congressional special interest dollars. We integrate consumers as full participants throughout the program process. That means that they are the true north. This is an organization that stands on the foundation of grassroots advocacy. This is the reason why we are here and we exist. So we want to be sure to be inclusive of those that go to the hill and bat for research funds, and making sure that we're hitting the mark on what is requested for research for those groups. Next slide. We publicly announce and compete our funding opportunities. So unlike the NIH, we're not going to work with a performer or a potential performer to tailor their proposal to submit to us. This is something that we have to make sure that we're not providing a competitive advantage. It's part of our processes that this will go through a competitive process. So please keep that in mind. It is it's written in the funding opportunity that it's not appropriate for you to have interaction with panel members or the program office when we have funding opportunities available. And I will just encourage you to read our funding opportunities, take advantage of these sessions here that we have the question. And all the information that you really need for a successful proposal is very well described in our funding opportunities. And we, like I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we fund impactful, innovative research for specific programs that are added by Congress, right? So again, this word impactful and innovative, and you're going to be requested when you submit a proposal to us to put together several attachments, and we really want the impact and the innovation to come across in the documents that you submit to us. Next slide. So here's a list of all the programs in the organization. You can see these are all standalone programs, meaning they all receive their own appropriation, and we all operate independently one from another. I am the program manager for the peer-reviewed medical research program, the one that's highlighted there in yellow. You can see on the right, there's the appropriation levels for each one of these programs. They are of varying sizes. PRMRP is the largest program in the organization, but it also has 42 topic areas under its umbrella. So it's an umbrella for 42 topic areas this year. So we're really competing with several other topic areas within this program. And you can see, I think Duchenne muscular dystrophy is a standalone program. It started as a topic area under PRM and now its own standalone program. So there might be some areas of overlap with other programs in the organization. And this is why I like putting up this table here. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about the program cycle and the review process. So next slide. So all the programs of the organization, we are going to follow some very specific milestones before, after releasing our funding opportunities in the process that we do to select the proposals that you're going to submit to us and ultimately make funding recommendations. There's a couple of things that I want to highlight on this slide. So we can only release our funding opportunities after we receive an appropriation. This year, we were under a continuing resolution for several months, so we were a little bit delayed in releasing our funding opportunities. They are now that we received the bill was signed into law, we can release the funding opportunities, and you will see that as the second milestone there in the cycle on your left. Then we were going to go through for our submissions. It's a two-step submission, and we're going to talk in detail about that. You're going to submit a pre-proposal or a pre-application, and then we're going to go to the full proposal. And then we're good with that. With those documents, we're going to start doing our peer review. And then, as I will talk later, we also have a second level of review, which is programmatic review. So we go through a two-tier review process, and that's where ultimately we're going to make our funding recommendations. The decision authority is the commanding general. He is the one that provides the approval. And then after you receive your notice of award, we're going to enter a period of award negotiation and award management. We have a robust team of science officers that are going to be managing the awards throughout the entire period of performance. And then until the award is closed out. So one thing that I want to highlight here, you'll see the arrow at the bottom. It's going to take several months for us to go through these milestones. So keep that in mind when you're submitting a proposal to us. When you submit to us, you're going to submit now by April, May, we're going to have the letter of intent for most of the award mechanisms, and then the full proposal is going to be a few weeks later. So it's going to take several months for us to go through the two-tier review process until you end up receiving a recommendation, a notice of award or not from us. So that's going to take several months. By law, we have until September 30th, 2025 to execute this. So just a heads up, keep that in mind when you're planning your timelines. The other thing that I want to highlight here is you'll see this brown circle here on the left. This is the programmatic panel, and you will see that they have input on several of the milestones that I just went through. So each standalone program has their own set of individuals, a board, if you will, of advisors that advise and work with the program closely. The programmatic panel for PRMRP, it is listed on our website. I encourage you to go there, go to our landing page and take a look at the individuals that are part of this board. Next slide. So like I mentioned, for all the proposals that are submitted to CDMRP, we are going to go through a 2-tier review process. We're going to start off with a peer review. So once you submit your proposal to us, that's going to go to peer review. We all know the benefits of peer review. The outcome of peer review is that there's going to be a summary statement. It's going to be a document that's going to list the strengths and weaknesses of your proposal. One thing that's important for you to know here, CDMRP, we do not have standing panels, right? So each year we are driven by congressional language and congressional intent. So we do not have a standing panel like the NIH that has a Center for Scientific Review. We are going to recruit and solicit reviewers based on the types of proposals that we receive, based on what we were tasked with by Congress. So that's also going to take time for us to go through that. But we will not have. So this means that if you're resubmitting a proposal to us, it's not necessarily going to be re-reviewed by the same reviewers. So we don't have a resubmission process per se. The ones that have the highest scientific score, so like I said, you're going to have a summary statement. It's going to list the strengths and weaknesses of a proposal. The ones with highest scientific merit are the ones that are going to go now to the second level of review, which is programmatic review. And now we're looking at a comparison amongst these proposals, right? So we're looking not just at scientific merit, we're looking at the adherence to the intent, the program relevance, what the program put out, what is our goal for that specific portfolio, for that specific topic area, how well we're meeting that, and which one of those meet the intent of the program for that year. So this means that we do not have a pay line. So if you receive a score, the highest score that you can receive, you are not automatically funded. We're going to look at the proposals comparatively and make sure that we're hitting the mark on other aspects and criteria that I will go over as we go through this presentation. Next slide. So like I mentioned, this is an organization that stands on the foundation of grassroots advocacy. We are here because consumers went to the Hill to bat for research funds. We started in 1992 with breast cancer advocates that went to the Hill and then they received an appropriation, and that's how the organization was stood up. We have steadily grown since then. All this to say that the consumers are really the true north. And these are defined by individuals living with the disease and the condition. Sometimes they're caretakers, service health provider. So keep that in mind. They will have an equal vote in looking into your proposals as the scientist reviewer. There are going to be parts of your proposal that we're going to request you to speak in lay language, to translate the impact in lay language so the consumer can analyze and see how impactful that would be for their community. So I just want to highlight this and that they will be participants of both levels of review. And this is something for you to keep in mind when you're drafting your proposal. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about the peer-reviewed medical research program. The overview that I gave so far was relevant to the whole organization. Now I'm going to give you specific information of this particular program. Next slide. So this is a program that started in 1999. A little bit later, the organization was stood up in 1992, and then this one was added by Congress after. And we receive a direction from Congress to support research of clear scientific merit and direct relevance to military health. That is how much. That is the scope of our congressional language, right? The congressional direction that we receive in specified topic areas. So this is very important for PRM to understand the topic areas because they are really the framework for the program. Next slide. So each year with the appropriation, we receive that congressional language and we receive a list of topic areas that can be used with that year's appropriation. In blue there, you will see that for FY24, we have 4 new topic areas. And some of them are more research tools. They're not a disease and condition. And we'll talk about how the program executes these types of topic areas. But these are the 42 topic areas, and you will see there fibrous dysplasia as one of the topic areas added by Congress. Next slide. So to execute them, the program takes this portfolio-driven approach. We allocate these topic areas into buckets, if you will. These are our areas that align with several other areas of research. And this way, this allows us to give to set the priorities at the portfolio level for what it is that we're looking for, and also for us to compare these proposals apples to apples, right? So you can see we have a rare diseases and condition portfolio. These are all, these diseases are mostly looking for the same thing. So we work together, we work with the advocacy groups to ensure that we are capturing what is needed for similar and looking for commonalities amongst these diseases and conditions to set the priorities for the program on this portfolio level. Next slide. So as I was mentioning, each one of these portfolios, it's going to have their own set of strategic goals. This means that the goals for the infectious disease portfolio, for instance, is going to be a different goal than what we have for rare diseases. And they are all going to be entirely divided across the spectrum of the continuum of care. You'll see there we're going to have goals for foundational research, for prevention, for diagnosis, treatment, and epidemiology. And this really summarizes what the program, what the panel is looking for. So I encourage you to really take a look at these, understand what we are requesting of the applicant this year. And by law, the applicant is going to have to address one of the topic areas, one of the congressionally directed topic areas, and one of the strategic goals as well for the portfolio that's chosen. So next slide. For all of these topic areas and portfolio, I am going to talk in more depth in a further slide about our funding opportunities, but this is just to give you an idea that for all of these portfolios that we have, we can fund the entire pipeline of research. So we have 2 award mechanisms under basic research, 2 under translational research, and 2 for clinical trials or clinical research. And all of the topic areas and all of the portfolios will be eligible in any one of these funding opportunities. Next slide. So like I mentioned, for all of these opportunities, it's going to come with a set of goals that we're looking for. So what the program, the programmatic panel, the advocacy groups, this is a process that we take the input of several stakeholders to define them. And it's going to come out in the funding opportunity. And it really summarizes what it is that the program wants. So you're going to see for the rare diseases and condition portfolio, you're going to have the topic areas that are eligible under that portfolio, and then it will follow a list of strategic goals that are specific for that portfolio. And this is really, you're going to see that the goals are broad. They are broad for a reason. They're meant to be used as a mix and match, if you will, with any one of these topic areas that you see there on the right. Next slide. So this is just a continuation. And like I said, these goals, they were developed in coordination with many of the stakeholders, and they summarize what the program is looking for from your proposal. So please read them carefully and make sure that your proposal is aligning to one of them. Next slide. One other aspect of the proposal submission is that we fall under the DoD, so the relevance and impact to military health. And like I said, I'm going back to the beginning of my presentation where I spoke about the whole definition that we have that includes the American public, the beneficiaries, not just active duty service members, correct? Because many of the diseases and conditions that we manage are disqualifying for military service. So, but still, when you submit a proposal to us, the impact and relevance to military health needs to come across. You're going to be required to fill out an attachment and how this proposal is relevant to military health. I encourage you to speak to the advocacy groups. They are the ones that went to the Hill to bat for research funds. They have been able to obtain an appropriation under the DoD, so they have the proper language justification for these attachments. And I encourage you to work with them and really make sure grantsmanship goes a long way. And here we have some examples of what, of not just incidents in the military, but how it also can improve life by being a dual capacity for civilians and military. There are several ways that we can justify and be creative in this attachment. And this is where, again, I encourage you to talk to Adrienne, and she has great material to provide on this. Next slide. So here I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail about our funding opportunities. Please feel free to interrupt me if there's anything here of particular interest that you would like me to discuss in a little bit more depth, okay? So we're going to start off with our basic research mechanisms. You'll see there we have 2. Like I mentioned, we have the Discovery Award. This is a $275K direct cost limit. We are looking here for that novel research, that breakthrough research. It's high risk, high reward. We are okay in taking the risk. We are okay if 99% of these awards that we make end up failing, but we're here just looking for that really outstanding, paradigm shifting type of research. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought here on the. So this is the type of research that we are expecting. Oh, innovation is going to be, you're going to see that all of our award mechanisms, we're going to have specific peer review criteria that's going to be different for each one of them, right? So we're going to have a peer review criteria that's different between basic research and translational research. And for this one, for the Discovery Award, innovation is going to be the main thing that we're going to be evaluating in this proposal. Then we move on to investigator-initiated award. This is more the one that's most similar to an R1 of the NIH. The direct cost limit here is 1 million. And we're looking here for that preclinical expansion, replication. It's still cell line or animal studies, comparative studies to validate preliminary or published data. So it's really that tail end of the basic research. And like I mentioned, this is the one at the direct cost limit is 1 million. It is similar to the one to an R01 of the NIH, and research strategy and feasibility is going to be the main driving factor here. Then we move on to translational research. We're going to have the Impact Award and the Technology Therapeutic Development Award. In short, we call that a TTDA award. So the Impact Award, this is a new award this year. We have two options here. It's going to be 2 million direct cost for one performer, 2.6 if you partner with a clinician scientist. And we are looking here for more mature studies. This is use-inspired science, and the potential for near-term impact has to be very clear and palpable, right? So we are looking here at the most relevant criteria for this type of award mechanism is going to be impact. Then we move on to a TTDA. This is a direct cost limit of 4 million. We are looking here for, this is a product-driven award mechanism. So the expectation would be that by the end of the period of performance, which is 4 years, so 4 million over 4 years, you would be able to submit an IND or an ID to the FDA. Then we finalize with our clinical trials and clinical research. I'm going to start talking about the Lifestyle Behavioral Health Intervention Research Award. This is a new award mechanism that we put out last year. It was very well received by the community. And here we're looking for clinical research on non-pharmacological therapies, anything that's not FDA regulated. So apps, for instance, non-invasive devices, or patient outcomes or quality of life. That would all be appropriate under this Lifestyle Behavioral Health Intervention Research Award. And then we move on to our clinical trial award. There's no direct cost limit. You can come in with the budget that you think is applicable to the study that you're proposing. And it's basically to fund any interventional clinical trial. It can be of any stage, phase 0, phase 1, phase 2. It's really a very broad award mechanism. This is very popular for us. We do offer this in two options. So there's going to be an option with a planning phase that we would give you 500K for you to execute all your regulatory approvals that you need. And then only after you show us that you have all the documentation in place, we would execute the trial as an option, assuming all the milestones are met. Or you can come in if you already have an IND, an ID for the specific purpose that you're testing. You can come in with a full-blown clinical trial, and if the budget is approved, that's what we are going to allocate up front. Now, one last thing I want to mention on the slide, you will see there is only, I don't think we can see the end here, but at the bottom, there's a letter of intent. For all, like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, our submission process is a two-step submission process. So it's either going to request you a letter of intent initially or a pre-application and then your full application. So the letter of intent is exactly what the name indicates. It's just your intent that you will, it's a one paragraph that we're requesting from the performer for you to tell us what type of research you're going to submit to us, which is going to be due usually a few weeks after. So it's just for us to start. This is an administrative step, but it's not optional. As administrative as it is not optional. So if you do not submit us a letter of intent, we will not be able to accept your proposal. And this is necessary because with the information that you provide to us here in the letter of intent, we will start putting together our peer review and bring the appropriate expertise in our panels that are needed to evaluate your proposal. So the information that you put in there is also what's going to guide us as we put together our panel. For the clinical trial award, it's going to be a different process. So here we asked for a pre-proposal, and the pre-proposal means that it's going to be also peer reviewed at the pre-proposal step, right? So instead of us, these are very elaborate award mechanisms. The clinical trial, it's a mechanism that takes a long time for the performer to be able to put that together. So we want to make sure to not have the performer go through all those steps before we are certain that we are really interested in seeing this type of research. So the pre-proposal, it's going to be a 5-page document you're going to submit to us, and it's going to be peer reviewed by the programmatic panel. We are either going to receive a thumbs up or thumbs down that we are interested in seeing the full proposal. So it really helps decrease that burden of if you are required to submit the full proposal, it's really because the government is interested in funding it. Next slide. So this is just a screenshot of our funding opportunity. I have the clinical trial here just as an example. I just want to go through a few parts in this table of content so you can really familiarize yourself with this document. So at the front page, you will see there's going to be submission and review dates and times. So it's really going to lay out the timeline that we have for this. If there's a pre-application, in this case there is, when you're going to receive the invitation to submit, or when is the deadline for a full proposal, when peer review is going to happen, and programmatic review. And you know that you will receive your notification after that programmatic review. On the right side here, there's several parts that are important. I want to just highlight the award information. This is going to be different for each one of the funding opportunities that you have. That's really going to describe the intent of the award mechanism. So what we really want out of that award mechanism. And I encourage you to look at that. That's going to be able to answer a lot of questions that you might have regarding how we are going, what we are interested in. And then lastly, the other thing that I want to highlight here is that there's going to be an application review information. The first one is going to be the review criteria. So this is something that, like I mentioned, for each award mechanism that you go through, we're going to have different review criteria. So I encourage you to really take a look at that. So moving on to the next slide. This is an example of the peer review criteria, how they're listed in the funding opportunity. So we're going to say that to determine the technical merit, all applications are going to be individually evaluated and scored through these review criteria, and they're going to be listed in decreasing order of importance, right? So it depends, like I mentioned here. So for the Discovery Award, innovation is going to be the first one. For some other mechanisms, it's going to be impact. And then we list under each one of these headers, there's going to be listed to how the reviewers are going to be evaluating this. So the one thing that I really encourage anybody, potential performers, to do is go through each one of this. So once you have your proposal drafted, give it to a colleague, make sure that you're hitting the mark, because this is exactly the driving criteria for your final score that you're going to be receiving in the summary statement. The reviewers are going to go through each one of them individually. That's how they are asked to review the proposals. Next slide. So like I said, we have 2 levels of review. Once you have the highest, you have very outstanding scientific scores. Those are the ones that are going to end up going to programmatic review. And here's where we're looking at the proposals comparatively. Our funding opportunities also list the criteria with which the programmatic panel are going to be looking at these proposals. So you're going to see there, now we're looking at relative innovation, relative impact. And like I mentioned, our programmatic panel, the individuals that are going to be doing this comparison, they are listed on our website, and I encourage you to go click there. You're going to see their FY24 programmatic panel. Take a look. I think to me, at least, I think it's always helpful if we know the individuals that are going to be evaluating the proposal, so we can maybe tailor and add some interests that would benefit the review of your proposal. Next slide. So here's a summary of our application submission deadline for each one of the award mechanisms. Starting here on the second column, you'll see there for all the award mechanisms that request a letter of intent. The due date is going to be for the basic award mechanisms, May 6th. For the other ones, it's going to be May 13th. For the clinical trial that we're looking for a pre-proposal, that's also going to be due May 13th. For the other mechanisms, you will not receive an invitation to submit. Like I said, this is just an administrative step, but the full application deadline is going to be due on May 23rd for the discovery and investigator for the basic award mechanisms, and June 6th for the other mechanisms. Keep in mind, like I said, I know I've said this, but I would like to highlight again, it is not optional to submit a letter of intent. This is an administrative step, but it is mandatory, or else we will not be able to receive your full application. Next slide. So this is just a schematics, a diagram of the two-step process that you see there. It's just going through all the steps that I'm not going to go through them again. But what I do want to highlight, you will see there that there are several steps that it is required for the business official, the SPO to submit as well. So do keep that in mind when you're submitting a proposal to us. There are going to be several steps that your business official is going to have to sign as well. Next slide. So now we're going to close off with some tips and strategies for a successful proposal with us. Next slide. So if I leave you with one thing only today, it is to read the announcement carefully. Okay, like I said, we do not interact with potential performers, especially when we have the funding opportunities open. We're not going to tailor your proposals, look at your aims. We cannot do that. So read the announcement carefully. This goes through several levels of review within the government. It goes through legal, it goes through ethics, and we just want to make sure that all the information that is there is relevant and appropriate and is setting you up for success. They are going to be long, they're lengthy. Like I said, they're long and lengthy for a reason. They're going to have everything that you need to successfully put together a proposal for us. Next slide. I think I talked a lot today about impact, innovation, the relevance. I think that just repackaging a proposal that you submit to the NIH doesn't really go well with the review process of CDMRP. We are, like I said, we're really looking for the impact, the innovation. Our review criteria is completely different. So I encourage you to go through all of that. Make sure that you are translating the impact of the technology that you're submitting to us, the type of research that you're submitting to us, because like I said, we do have consumer reviewers on our panel. We want to know how this work will make a difference, how this work will impact those living with the disease and the condition. Next slide. And ultimately, I do like to talk about this. I think planning and timelines. We have many outstanding proposals that are not considered each year because they do not fall in the timelines or letter of intent is not submitted. And I want to make sure that you understand. So for many funding organizations, there is a grace period. The DoD does not provide a grace period. So absent a great disaster of nature, a hurricane, you will not receive a grace period for you to submit. So those deadlines that you see there, May 13th, May 6th, those are the hard deadline. And each round, which is something that I find very upsetting in this job, I see many proposals that come in a minute late, and there's nothing that we can do about that. So please keep the timeline and budget in the appropriate time that you need to submit the proposal to us. I think we all have technical difficulties. You can expect to have technical difficulties as well whenever we're submitting something. So budget in that buffer for you to be able to overcome. If you have to interact with the help desk because there's something that's not working, please be sure to have that appropriate time because the deadline will be the deadline. And finally, grantsmanship, right? I think, like I said, repackaging a proposal from the NIH doesn't really work well. I think grantsmanship goes a long way. Make sure you understand what's the intent of the award mechanism, what it is that we want, and you can explain that work with clarity, unburdened by jargon, really hitting the mark and doing that comparison with the review criteria that we're asking for. Next slide. The CDMRP website is a very robust source of information. This is the landing page of the peer-reviewed medical. There, like I said, we'll have a program book. It's going to show you all the type of research that we have funded in the past. As I mentioned, the programmatic panel, there's going to be a link there for the programmatic panel. You're going to see a list of the peer review participants in previous years. So you can get an idea of who's going to be reviewing this proposal, and just some more information that I think can really help strengthen your proposal. Next slide. This is the landing page of the CDMRP website. We do have this little mail icon. You can submit you can subscribe to receive to be part of our listserv and receive all the notifications. So when we have other funding opportunities, there's going to be, once you click there, there's going to be a drop-down menu that you can choose which program. So if you're interested in another program in the organization, this is also the time for you to just click there, put your email, and it will be sure that you're contact whenever there's anything new or new funding opportunities. Next slide. We also have a list of webinars, of links to webinars. So these are not going to be specific webinars for a specific program like I did today, talking about just my program, PRMRP, and the funding opportunities that we offer. But it is nonetheless a great source of information if you're looking at submitting in other programs like team science funding opportunities, how to put that together. So high risk, high gain funding opportunities that would be applicable to the Discovery Award. So I really encourage you to go in there and take a look, see if there's anything that you find useful while you're putting your proposal together. Next slide. And I will pause here, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Did we have any questions in the chat, Jenny?
There were no questions in the chat.
Yeah, nothing that I'm saying.
All right. Anybody in the room?
I mean, you have been absolutely clear. on
Or not. I think one of the
No,
two.
no.
I've been either very clear, which I'm not, or I just overwhelmed everybody, right?
No, absolutely clear. Just to be sure, you said the letter of intent is just more or less one page. I guess that the forms and all other information in the website, but just one page, you said?
Yes, it's a very simple. This is why we give it a much shorter deadline. It's just so you can continue working on your proposal. It's going to be one paragraph. It's going to ask you what award mechanism do you plan to submit. It's going to make you, just for you to go through that process, you're going to have an account in EBRAP. So that's going to facilitate. We already have you in the system when you submit your full proposal. So yes, it is not. It's something that you can put together in half an hour. Now the proposal, no, the proposal is going to, especially depending on, I have heard the feedback that it is a much more elaborate process than the NIH. So don't, yes, I don't want you to be disappointed once the proposal comes and you're working on your 20th attachment and you're. Anyone else? All right, then, Adrienne, do you have any questions? Anything that we can do?
I do not have any questions, and I just want to thank you so much for taking your time today to do this presentation. It is very meaningful to the FDMAS community.
All right, well then I look forward to receiving many exciting proposals from this group, and I think we have done a good job in the past. We have obtained some funding, right, Adrienne? So I think this is going to be another successful year, hopefully.
Yes, we've obtained funding, and people who have been funded are willing to take questions and help other people who are trying to go through this process. So we're
All right.
We're a community that works together. So without further ado, thank you, Mara and Alessandro and Sarah, for joining us. Jenny, thank you for being here, and we'll be sharing this recording.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you very
Very
much.
much.
Bye.